Hello, my wonderful, beautiful friends, guys. Welcome back to entitled people, where people truly believe it's all about them and no one else matters. And in today's episode, we've got the most entitled coworkers ever, guys. So if you've ever dealt with a work Karen, this one's for you. I hope you enjoy the stories, don't shake your heads too hard, and as always, you can send or link your post to this email right here. Let's dive in. Okay, so this is such an insane story that I wouldn't doubt if you guys didn't believe it, but unfortunately, it's very true. I'm a 19-year-old female and I work at a library. I work in the children's department along with older coworkers. Think 30s to 50s, as well as other teens. I've been working there since high school, which is how I know Karen, who's 18 years old. And to put it bluntly, Karen and I are not friends. We used to be friendly back in high school as we had a couple of the same friends, and we've both been working at our job for years. I would definitely not call us friends currently though, due to Karen's attitude. She's the type of person who will ask for a favor, and if you refuse, she'll act like a complete a-hole to you. It's clear too that she doesn't really see us as friends, as when we work together, she'll completely ignore me or just glare at me, only talking to me if it's something involving our job or if she needs something. If she needs something from me, then suddenly we're best friends and she'll chat with me like nothing happened. So yeah, I don't really like her. With that said, on to the main story. I came to work yesterday afternoon, like 2:30ish, and Karen was there. Our shifts alternate slightly, where there's like an hour where the two of us are both working before she leaves and I continue my shift. So while working, Karen asked me if I could take her home after her shift ended. I was obviously confused, as I still had hours to go before I was done with mine. I told her such. She then implied that I could use my break time to drive her home, and I honestly laughed out loud because I thought she was joking. Because A, our breaks are 15 minutes long, and it would take me 30 minutes to drive her home, and then 30 minutes to drive back without traffic. Realistically, it would end up taking like 45 to 60 minutes because of how heavy traffic is. And B, who wants to spend their time off driving someone home? Karen was shockingly not joking though. She was claiming it would be doable if I just, quote, drove really fast, and that she really needed the ride because she had to be home and her boyfriend couldn't come get her. I just said, no, sorry, but no way that's happening. She then storms off, and she ignored me the rest of her shift, before she, which I assumed at the time, left. Now, I didn't think much more of the situation. I was amused at her audacity, but whatever. Eventually, my time to leave comes, so I wave bye to my coworkers and head outside. And that's when I see Karen just sitting outside on one of the benches. She immediately perks up after seeing me, and she runs over while I just looked at her. She then says to me, "Finally, you're leaving, right? Can you give me a ride?" Hearing her say that, I was shocked. I flat out asked her if she'd been waiting for practically 4 hours for me to leave, even after I said no. She then said no, she just walked to the nearby store to do things before she came back here. But in my opinion, that still counts as her waiting for me to drive her home. I was creeped out and honestly pissed off, since it felt like to me, she was trapping me and playing the "you're leaving, so can you take me too" card. It took everything in me to not yell or even book it to my car. I calmly told her that I had plans after work, and no, I couldn't take her. That's when she legit throws a tantrum, y'all, basically telling me that I wasted 4 hours of her time and that she waited for nothing. I just got in my car and left. Honestly, it was so insane that she would just wait around and assume that I'd take her, instead of getting the message and calling someone else. I think she was actually shocked that I stood up to her. With that, I just walked to my car and drove off. She never tried to do that to me or my coworkers ever again. You know what? I'm just glad she learned a lesson, but seriously, 4 hours she waited, guys, for a ride home. Like at that point, catch a bus, call an Uber, even start walking, right? Again, the fact that she waited around for 4 hours after OP said no was absolutely mind-boggling. I also want to add, it's nice to know that OP didn't give in when Karen started throwing a tantrum and begging for a ride. And this person comments, I remember the time when I was nearby my workplace at a bar with a friend. It was evening, long after work. Suddenly, I get a call from a coworker. She says she saw my car in a parking lot, not in front of the bar, but a few hundred meters away. And she asked if I can call her and give her a ride home when I'm finished. And honestly, the distance was walkable and with good direct bus connection. I thought it was a bit entitled and a bit weird, but not even close to OP's story. So when this happened, my hubby was very sick. I had to take him to the ER after he passed out from dehydration from an intestinal bug that he's been dealing with for a few days. On the way, he calls his job to let them know. We park in the ER garage and we get a little ticket that the ER validates for you. He's brought back, immediately given fluids and meds, and taken back for a CT scan, etc. Well, we find out later that a coworker who was pissy that she was gonna be short-handed took it upon herself to somehow find our address and later drive to our apartment to check to see if my hubby is really sick and that he's not faking it. She sees our upstairs neighbor walking who vaguely resembles my husband. Both 6'3", light brown hair, similar builds, except he's 15 years younger and he's got his infant with him. Our kids are in their late 20s, early 30s. She then goes back to work and she tells the boss that we lied about being sick, as she saw him at so-and-so time walking around outside perfectly fine. The next morning, the boss calls hubby and lets him know that he's gonna be written up for calling out under false pretense and causing staffing issues. After pressing him for info, he tells us about what the coworker did. Hubby tells boss that firstly, we have proof that we were in the ER at the time coworker said she saw him, and secondly, that he's filing an HR complaint on both the coworker and the manager, as there isn't any rule about why anyone can call out, and why the hell is the coworker at our house spying on us? In our state, management's not allowed to inquire about your health, nor are they allowed to let you tell them about your health issues. The manager then starts getting defensive and starts backtracking, and then states if we can give him proof, he'll excuse it. Hubby just says, "You'll get your proof," and then hangs up. He immediately calls HR and he lets them know what happened, and we provide them the time-stamped parking ticket and part of the discharge paper from the ER, showing what time we arrived and left. The next week, this email is sent out, notifying all employees and management about the law concerning sick time, and also a separate notification that employees are not to be following, spying on, or otherwise contacting other employees outside the office regarding work, time off, etc. Hubby was then called into a meeting with the manager, the department head, and the female employee. The manager and the employee were both absolutely roasted by the department head. The only thing the employee had to say was that the person she saw looked like my hubby, and she was angry about the situation. The manager's excuse was that the female employee had been there a long time, so he trusted her when she told him. When asked how she even got our address, we find out the manager lets her use his computer regularly, and she's had access to other employees' private info for some time. The department head said that hubby was free to go, with his profound apologies. We find out later the employee was fired and the manager was demoted and moved to a different department. You know what? Can't say they didn't deserve that, right? And that's the outcome that's expected when someone does something like that. I only wish the manager was fired too and not just demoted, because allowing somebody to access other employees' information all because you're buddy-buddy is a pretty big no-no. That aside, like imagine being that angry about being short-handed that you literally go to someone's house to try to catch them faking being sick. And what's funny is that OP adds in the comments that the Karen coworker was spying on them when she should have been at work doing work. What's that saying? Play dumb games, win dumb prizes, enjoy unemployment, Karen. And while we're on the topic of people giving out personal information at work, this person shares their story. So just so you know, my mother is an extremely awful person, and I'm glad I have nothing to do with her anymore. But this post is about someone who we'll call Ted. Ted's a coworker that I used to have when I was in college and working part-time in a warehouse. Unlike me, Ted was a full-time employee, but the guy didn't act like it. We were about the same age though. Ted was a snoop. The guy loved to gossip and he loved to look for things. Ted also spent long periods in the bathroom listening to music to avoid working. The first time he got written up was for bringing X-rated material to work and reading it out in the open while on break. He called it BS and he said our manager was a prude, but no one else sided with him about it. The second time Ted got written up, it was because he gave my cell phone number to my mother. She called my job pretending to be my girlfriend, and Ted gave her the number without question. And how did he get it, you ask? Well, all the employees had their numbers written down by the manager. Most of our employees were part-timers like me, and employee turnover rates were really high. So the manager had all of our numbers written down, ready to call someone in to take over a shift when needed. It was surprisingly often. I wouldn't call the manager an unpleasant guy, but he kept everyone at arm's length. Anyway, Ted gave my mother my first cell phone number, and she immediately used it to start calling and harassing me. Oh, and the guy got in trouble for it when I complained to the boss, because it was in the rules that you're not allowed to give out any personal information of your coworkers. And here's the thing, Ted actually blamed the write-up he got for it on me. He claimed I should have warned him that my mother was a POS. I also pointed out that if I had a girlfriend, she'd already have my number, and she wouldn't need to ask a stranger for it. Ted then gave me attitude, and he stopped talking with me after that. He got fired a few months later, after being caught snooping in the manager's office again, which he had been forbidden from entering. He then made a big show of yelling, "Screw you, screw this job, screw everyone," when he grabbed his backpack and ran out. I saw him again about a year later working for a landscaping service. He didn't seem to recognize me, but I recognized him. Okay. So this is a bit of a long story that happened several years ago now. I mentioned these events in passing to a friend, so now it's fresh in my mind again. When I, 38 years old, was in my early 30s, I used to work in an office of an apartment complex for university students. Our front office staff had a ridiculous turnover rate, to the point that for over half my 4 years there, I was the only full-time front staff. Management then hires a new full-time person, who we'll call Emily. Now, Emily was a few years younger than me. She was multilingual, had a degree in hospitality and sales, and just moved to my state. Before we go on, here's 2 important things about me. My mom had recently passed away, and I'm overweight. Part of my job involved lots of lifting and carrying heavy packages up the long steep hill our complex was situated over. So I'm also fairly muscular and rather fit under my extra fluff, which I'm very proud of. By contrast, my mom never got above 110 pounds her whole life. She meant well, but almost 30 years of her picking at me about my weight had made it a sore subject. Things went well for a while, and then Emily's obsession with healthy eating started. I would mention going to a restaurant, and she would pull up a menu to tell me what to order, with a comment about being my mom now. I just shut it down, and I told her about the loss in my family. But she didn't care. She then brought meals for me, and she got offended when I didn't want them. She would see me drinking soda, and she would tell me not to drink those anymore. And not recommended, I was told. I would often bring a snack that's not up to her standards, and she would open a bag of trail mix and she would march over to my desk with it. One day, I saw what was about to happen in slow motion. She comes stomping over with her healthy snack for me, and I flung both hands over my snack to shield my food, and she ends up upending the entire bag onto my plate. I don't like nuts, so I had to throw the whole thing away. I told her several times to stop, and she did apologize, but she never changed her behavior. I involved management, and they said she was just being friendly. This went on for at least 6 months, and then came the final straw. Now, I don't remember what brought it up, but she was talking to a resident and she glanced across at me and then she chirped out loud, "I'm teaching her to be healthy. I'm like her mom." And that's when I saw red. Now, usually, I would have waited for the resident to leave and then addressed her patiently in private again. But this time, I couldn't. It was one pick too many, and what bugged me the most is she didn't address the comment to me, but about me to one of our residents. I just snapped. I pushed out my desk and I said something to the effect of, "I had a mom. She's dead. You're not her. So stop trying to act like it." The entire climate of the office changed. After that, Emily stopped talking to me and she eventually quit, which I do still feel bad about, but only a little. Management then froze me out for making the workplace hostile. I quit not long after, and I'm much happier where I am. Yeah, in my opinion, I think somebody in management was friends with Emily, and they protected her when they should have given her consequences for being that pushy. Like, one time's already pushing the boundaries enough, right? But not stopping when OP constantly tells her to stop with trying to manage their weight, and then going on for a full 6 months after that. Oh, the frickin' audacity. I don't know how OP didn't snap, and this person comments, "You honestly handled it better than I did." She would have gotten my lunch dumped on her head, and a demand for the money I needed to replace it. So for some context, I work at a small business, and I usually have Fridays and Saturdays off. Well, every Saturday, I like to go out with my boyfriend and eat somewhere nice, and I'll usually order something to go or take the leftovers to eat on Sunday at work. And here's where the frustration begins and Karen comes in. Karen always wants a bite of everything I'm eating. It doesn't matter if it's food I make at home or from a restaurant. And don't get me wrong, I don't mind sharing sometimes, but she takes more than a small bite to try it. I've even started to eat my food in the back room to hide from her at times. There's also times when I get busy, and I leave my food on the table and she sits in my spot and she just helps herself to it. Well, like I said, my boyfriend and I usually eat somewhere nice, like a sushi place or Red Lobster, because treat yourself. But this last Saturday, we didn't really feel like going out, so we just stayed in and ate at Little Caesars. Now, I know it's not the best quality pizza, but it's so cheap it doesn't matter. I saved 3 slices for work the next day, like usual, and I didn't think much of it. I get to work the next day, and when I have a break, I start heating up my lunch. And that's when Karen comes around and she starts being nosy over what I brought. When I pull my food out of the microwave, she makes the biggest, most obnoxious scene. She says, "Ew, you brought Little Caesars?" And then she asked why I didn't bring something better like the other times. She then went on and on how it's the worst brand of pizza and that only 6th graders will be willing to eat that. And I was like, okay. I eat my horrid, disgusting garbage of a pizza anyway, and I was enjoying it until she starts complaining how she hasn't eaten all day yet. She's like, "You know what, Little Caesars isn't so bad if you put some hot sauce over it." And then she goes and takes a slice. And that's when I say, hell no. I then defended my pizza as if I were protecting Caesar himself. I told her she shouldn't have complained and made that outburst over my food. She then called me selfish, and she said people should always share. But I just finished my pizza, and I went on with my day. Also, I don't plan on letting her try my food ever again. So I worked in this small family-owned office that runs 24/7. There's about 25 employees total, but in the office, there's only like 12 of us. The rest work off-site. That said, there's a woman who works here who we'll call Karen. Now, Karen's almost 40 years old, and she's been here about 10 years. And for reference, I've been here just over 4 years. Since I've been hired, and from what I hear for her entire employment, she's never agreed to switch shifts with anyone. Not once. Not a single time has she ever done anyone a favor, no matter what. Yet she still has no issue asking other people to switch shifts with her. A year into my employment, my brother needs emergency surgery, and I begged her to cover my shift the next day. And all Karen said to me was no. Sunday's my day to sleep in. Sorry. And I never forget that. I just thought, whatever, she's not obligated to switch shifts. It's her prerogative if she wants to be universally disliked by our entire office. Anyways, Karen's got pregnant about 7 months ago, completely accidentally, and she was actually quite freaked out about it for a while. She's pretty much been nauseous her entire pregnancy, and she even keeps a trash can next to her desk just in case she can't make it to the bathroom. Well, yesterday, she was feeling really sick, and around 12:30 p.m., she asked our boss if she could leave early. The boss told her that she could only leave if she could get someone to agree to finish her shift. Our shifts are mainly 7 a.m. to 3 p.m., 3 to 11 p.m., and 11 to 7 a.m. I was working the morning yesterday, scheduled to leave at 3 p.m., and she was scheduled until 7 p.m. The only other person who could have stayed for her had plans right after his shift, so I was her only option. She waited until 2:45 p.m., and then she saunters up to my desk, puppy dog eyes fully engaged. And she asked me to stay the rest of her shift because she was feeling really ill. Now, I listen to these stories a lot, and I never forgot that one post about the bitchy manager refusing to allow the employee to be at her dying son's bedside. And there's a line in that text exchange that I loved, and I've been waiting for the perfect moment to use it, and this was it. I swivel to face her, look her right in the eyes, trail my eyes down to her bulging, unplanned pregnant stomach, and I say, a lack of planning on your part does not constitute an emergency on my part. And then I just swivel right back and continue working without another word. It was glorious. Her face instantly dropped, and it was like someone farted into her mouth the way it twisted. She didn't say a thing. She just waddled back to her desk, absolutely furious. 15 minutes later, I stand up, and I loudly announce my departure and that if anyone needs me, I'll be at home taking a nap. So I own a vape shop. We're a small business with only 12 employees. One of my employees named Peggy was supposed to open yesterday. Peggy's been recently promoted to manager after 2 solid years of good work as a cashier. I really thought she could handle the responsibility. So here's the story. I wake up 3 hours after the place should be open. I have 22 notifications on the store Facebook page. Customers have been trying to come into the shop, but the store is closed. Employees are showing up to work, but they're locked out. That's when I call Peggy and I get no response. I text her, same thing. So I go in and open the store. An hour before her shift was supposed to be over, she calls me back. I ask her if she's okay, and she says she needed to take a mental health day to do some self-care. Now, I'm pretty pissed off at this point, but I'm trying to be understanding, as I know how important mental health can be. So I ask her why she didn't call me as soon as she knew she needs the day off. And her response was, I didn't have enough spoons in my drawer for that. Frankly, I don't know what that means, but it seems to me like she's saying she can't be trusted to handle the responsibility of opening the store in the morning. So I told her she had 2 choices. Number 1, go back to her old position with her old pay, or number 2, I fire her completely. Upon hearing that, she's calling me all sorts of stuff now. and she says I'm discriminating against her due to her poor mental health and her gender. Now, none of this would have been a problem if she simply took 2 minutes to call out. I would have gotten up and opened the store on time. But this no-call/no-show crap is not the way to run a successful business. Now, I think I might be the a-hole here because I am taking away her promotion over something she had no control over. But at the same time, she really could have called me. So am I the a-hole in this situation? In my opinion, OP's not the a-hole at all, guys, and unfortunately, they're right. That is no way to run a business. That said though, I honestly think I would have given her a second chance to redeem herself and not have pulled the trigger so quickly on a demotion or firing. But at the same time, I don't know how I would have reacted with a comment like, I didn't have enough spoons in my drawer. Like, how many spoons does it take to send a quick text to your boss to say that you're not coming in and you can't open the store? But guys, you know the deal. Leave your comments down below. If you're in an OP situation, who's firing her, who's demoting her, and who's giving her a second chance like I might have done? And that, my friends, brings us to another end of r/EntitledPeople. Guys, I hope you enjoyed today's stories. If you did, hit that thumbs up. And if you're not subscribed, consider subscribing so you don't miss these crazy stories. And if you missed the last episode on the channel, guys, go check it out. It's in r/malicious compliance, where bosses are getting taught lessons by their employees, and the stories are absolutely wild. Go check it out if you haven't, and myself and Stevie Boy will see you guys in the next one. We love you.